Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the feat, Fey Teleportation.
Yes, Blink over here, over there. I can't really teleport, and I don't have the budget for better, effects and special
Yeah,
things.
well, I don't have the patience to do that. I
And
could
that's fair
probably
enough.
work out something, but yeah, Fey Teleportation.
This is
What we
a
got?
feat from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It's one of the racial feats, so they got a bunch of different races got their own special little feats that do nifty things. This one's for high elves. Your study of high elven lore has unlocked the Fey power that few other elves possess, except your Eladrin cousins. Drawing on your Fey ancestry, you can momentarily stride through the Feywild to shorten your path from one place to another. You gain the following benefits: increase your intelligence or charisma score by 1 to a maximum of 20. High elves already have a +1 int on their racial ability score modifiers, which normally means you're a wizard, and that's really good. If you can ever get that odd to an even, you're really happy. This is a reason to take a 17 int on elves, just because this is like a free ability score improvement. It's great. Additionally, you learn to read, write, and speak Sylvan, sure. And then finally, you learn Misty Step and can cast it once without spending a spell slot. You get that ability back when you finish a short or long rest. Int is your modifier for it. That's pretty cool. Notably, you can't. I don't believe you can use regular spell slots for that Mystic Step. I think it is literally only with this, because it doesn't say you can spend spell slots to cast it, which is something that like this feats in Strixhaven say, and not something that Magic Initiate says. So I'm not, to my knowledge, you can't use spell slots on Misty Step learned this way. Could be wrong. Might also depend on classes. I'm gonna treat it like you can't. Maybe you can, and that's pretty much gravy. But a free Misty Step per short rest is pretty great. And on top of that, getting a bonus to your int is also just great. I love this feat. Nothing not to love.
Well, Uh, here's something maybe not to love. All right, compare this to Fey Touched.
Oh, that could be bad for the spell, huh?
Yeah, you're getting a bump up to your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, and you learn Misty Step and one other spell.
Yeah, it also says you can use cast these spells using spell slots if you have the appropriate level, which means you can
Yep.
use your spell slots if you're a wizard and stuff on them.
So I don't know to to choose Fey Teleport. You really want to have to learn. You really have to want to learn Sylvan, I guess.
Or you want both.
You want both what?
Fey Teleportation and Fey Touch.
Hmm.
They're not mutually
Yes.
exclusive.
No.
Well, you definitely want Fey Touch first. Fey Touch is definitely way, way better than this, because getting an entire extra first level spell slot is so much better than Sylvan is. And then having the flexibility to be able to use your wizard spell slots for it, which again, normally I'm talking about wizards because high elves get int to their ability score distribution. Then you're like, yeah, this is just exceptional. What's not to love? So yeah, good catch, Bob. Fey Touch is just better than Fey Teleportation, and if you don't want both, there's no reason to take Fey Teleportation over it. And that's the feat. Yep.
How much? I mean, what do you get? What do you get for both?
2 Misty Steps.
Two Misty Steps.
You get +2 int,
Eh,
so that's cute,
yeah.
right? So you could conceivably have a 16 int, take Fey Touched at your first ability score improvement, and then take Fey Teleportation at your second ability score improvement, and then you get a +1 in and an extra teleporting thingy. But then we look at Shadow Touch, and you have to say, is one casting Misty Step better than what Shadow Touch gives you? And the answer to that question is no, it's not. Visibility plus the first level spell of your choice is way better than one Misty Step. So like, you have to really specifically want as many Misty Steps as possible. Maybe your entire bit is playing the Misty Step character. Maybe you're like and then you should just be an Eladrin though, because I think they have Misty Step on their base racials. So like, but let's say you want to be a high elf specifically doing the Misty Step thing as like a Blade Singer or whatever, then you could take and get extra instances of the bonus action teleport that'll feel very free. This also has, let's see, Fey Touch might come back on long rest. If it comes back on long rest, that's a reason that you care differently about it. Let's find out.
Let's take a look. That's the spells.
I love the Googling moments of these videos where there's just an awkward
Yeah,
silence
yeah.
that permeates it. It's really delightful. Any case, Misty Step is a you get them back when you finish a long rest. Okay. That's an
All
important
right.
distinction.
Yeah.
Fey Teleportation is short rest. Fey Touch is long rest. That is a lot more uses of Fey Teleportation than Fey Touch. That is a reason to consider it over it, actually. I think it's actually a pretty meaningful reason to consider it over it. I probably still take Fey Touch every single time because an extra first level spell slot guaranteed per long rest, whenever short rests don't tend to be that guaranteed. Sometimes there'll be adventures where there are no short rests, and then it just is worse. That's not something that I'm super down for, but 2 Misty Steps over 1 Misty Step could be better. So, like, if you're playing a table that has lots of short rests, Fey Touch is probably good. I'm sorry, Fey Teleportation is probably good. Yes.
Well,
That name's being dissimilar is awkward.
now you say that, but what about the line? You can also cast these spells using spell slots you have at the appropriate level. You can
That
get
is
multiple uses of Misty Step.
at the expense of your spell slots, right? So that's competing with other resources.
Yeah,
You have other things that
yeah.
can do that. This also is a window where, like, if you are getting the extra spell slots for it and using the new learned spell, you're not learning it natively. So, like, that's if you're a wizard and you want Misty Step, but you don't want to learn Misty Step, that's kind of like, I guess this is technically gravy. But for the most part, like, if you wanted Misty Step, you could learn it. So it isn't a huge upgrade, but it is an upgrade. I also think if you are an artificer, it's a lot better to have Fey Touch because it's going to be second level spells that you're getting for free on short rests that come back faster. You can't really afford on half casters to do things as cheap that are normally as cheap as Misty Step, right? Misty Step is really good because it's efficient. It's a bonus action, but it costs second level spell slot. And whenever the second level spell slot isn't expensive for you, whenever you've got ample spell slots, the low end spell slots to spend, it becomes a lot more readily usable, right? You don't mind bonus action and get away from the danger every once in a while. Feels very free. Artificers, again, because they get spell slots so much slower than full casters, they might want to actually have more uses of it that aren't necessarily competing with their few second level spell slots that they're getting. And for that reason, it could be better on those kinds of characters. So that's a consideration too. I guess this is more complex than I initially thought because they refresh different. They refresh differently. And that's kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, but it is a tough sell. Even with the
Yeah.
short rest thing, I recognize that that's important. But is it more important than the additional spell you get with the Fey Touched?
I think most people will prefer the extra spell.
And you said, all right, you're getting using your spell slots to do more Misty Steps. That comes at the cost of your spell slots. Sure, this comes at the cost of a feat. I mean,
Both come out at the cost of a feat, right?
yeah, but I'm talking about like a feat where you don't get these other cool things. I don't know. That made more
Yeah.
sense in my mind before I spoke.
So
But
I think
yeah,
at the end of the day, you can make a pretty clear decision on if you should take Fey Teleportation or Fey Touched. If, again, we're in the situation where you're playing specifically a High Elf that wants these. And there are going to be plenty of High Elves that really don't care about Misty Step, right? There will be plenty of wizards that go, I would rather just take Shadow Touch. I would just rather bump my int. I'd rather just bump my charisma. I'd much rather just do other things in my ability score modifiers. If you're doing, like, a lot of blade singers tend to be high elves because int plus, dexterous weaponry. It's very elvish to do the blade singer thing. Blade singers are an elvish archetype from Sorko's Adventurer's Guide. That archetype doesn't need Fey Teleportation. It often's going to want martial feats to empower their weapons. It's often going to want ways to spend their feats on their dex-based stuff. So you don't nearly necessarily always you're going to even want this specific feat on high elves. Fey Touch goes on anyone and is about as good. Probably a little. It's definitely better. Getting 2 spells is definitely better than 1 spell per short rest, like 2 spells per long rest, and I'm taking that almost every time. There'll be some tables where you're getting a short rest every fight, and in a short rest every fight, okay, they're comparable, but like the consistency Fey Touch offers over Fey Teleportation, I think, is quite a bit higher. And for that reason, I'm going to rate it higher. But again, that doesn't mean Fey Teleportation is bad. It just isn't as good as a good feat. And that's not the end of the world, right?
yeah. If you got, I think to choose this over Fey Touched, you need to have some sort of plan or build that requires multiple Misty Steps, and you have to have a pretty solid guarantee that you're going to be getting multiple short rests in your sessions.
You need to know you're at a table where there's 3 to 4 encounters per long rest and 2-ish short rests for those 4 to 5 plus encounters, right? Like, you need to know this is how your DM runs things. They run dungeons like this. They run classic, old school, high density of encounter and adventures. That is getting less and less as the years go by. Adventures are skewing more towards, again, big set pieces, 1 to 2 fights per adventure. There's less room for short rests in the game as it continues to age. So I don't think this feat is going to get much better as the game progresses. Still, you might be at the tables where it is good, where it is fine. I still don't know if you take it over Fey Touched, but like it's a consideration at least.
All right. Well, got anything else to say about it?
Again, this is not a bad feat. This is a perfectly fine feat. It probably isn't as good as Fey Touch, but that's okay. Do both need to exist? Certainly not. We definitely could have lived without this feat existing, but it does. So. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Yeah, I was thinking
I
2.
think 3 might be more fair.
I thought you were going higher, but yeah, I was going to give it a 2 because it's not completely worthless. But yeah, like, I'd make the same argument for Cure Wounds, though. Like, you're so down on Cure Wounds, that was like a 1 automatically. But Cure Wounds has uses, but the only reason it's so horrible is because Healing Word exists.
The difference.
This feels similar.
The difference between Healing Word and Cure Wounds is much further apart than the difference between Fey Touch and Fey Teleportation, right? That's the difference of getting an action on your turn alongside getting somebody off of 0 at a range distance, right? Like, it's action versus bonus action, it's touch versus ranged, and it has no other meaningful differences. Fey Touch and Fey Teleportation is the difference of there is some upside to Fey Teleportation being a short rest recharge, which is probably worse at most tables, which are 2 caveats, right? Like, that's not guaranteed by anyone's perspective, than the Misty or than Fey Touch's extra spell, right? Like, usually it's going to be worse, but it's not objectively worse. There are reasons to take Fey Teleportation over it, right?
There's also the Cure Wounds cures more hit points. Now, I know we've had the talk, but I'm just saying there is some tiny upside.
Not nearly as comparable to these two. These two are, I would say these two, Fey Touch is like, here, excellent, 5 out of 5, probably 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 feet, really, really solid. This is like, it's fine. It's really pretty good. Cure Wounds is like way down here, like off the screen level, like, and Healing Word's like, yeah, okay, you probably should put it on your character sheet. That is the difference in where these effects are power budget wise. We're not talking about apples to oranges here. We're talking like, this is apples to apples, Fey Teleportation to Fey Touch. Healing Word to Cure Wounds is apples to oranges, for sure.
Okay. I just wanted to get you riled up a little bit.
You got it. You nailed it.
All right, that was Fey Teleportation. What?
It deserves a 3. It deserves a 3. It's perfectly reasonable. It's just, Fey Touch exists, but it makes it comparably worse. But in a vacuum, it's a 3.
Yeah, I'm still giving it a 2. What were we talking about? Fey Teleportation. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, audience, for watching. Let us know what you think. Where do you think Fey Teleportation stands? Would you take it? Why?
Is Sylvan ever useful?
Not. That's not why I would ever take it.
Yes, Sam.
All right, we can agree on that. All right, thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.